Hello and welcome back to the weekly Oracle card reading with Kylie Savage, Psychic Medium. This reading is for the week of the 13th of July to the 19th of July 2019. Okay, for our Southerners we'll have a full moon in Capricorn on the 17th, and for the Northerners you're going to have that on the 16th, and it will also be a partial lunar eclipse, so that's really exciting. Apparently it will only be seen mostly by countries below the equator, so in the southern hemisphere, but as you know we can definitely look these things up online and get to see them. Okay, so I've drawn 6 cards, 4 cards from the Wisdom of Avalon by Colette Baron Reid, and our anchor card on the focus is the Wasp, and our second card is the Merlin. Sorry, I always go say Merlin. It's the Merlin. Our third card is Forgiveness. That's a journey marker card. And the fourth card is the Deer. You can see that there. Okay, and then I've drawn 1 card asking for a guide to assist and support us with anything that comes up in the main reading. And that's Katumi, Cloak of Wisdom. And that's from a lovely deck by Kyle Gray called Keepers of the Light Oracle. I highly recommend Kyle Gray, all of his work, all of his decks. I think he's amazing. And I've drawn 1 extra card. Isn't this just gorgeous? I'm so loving this deck. This is the Moonology deck by Yasmin Boland. Now, if you don't know, Yasmin is an Australian lady, but she's based in the UK. She's a Hay House author. She's written an Astrology Basics book. She's written the book Moonology, and these are the oracle cards that go along with the book. And I listen to her on Hay House Radio. If you haven't signed up for Hay House Radio, I highly recommend it. Get yourself a free account, and you'll find all the amazing Hay House authors on there. You can listen to their show once for free, and then there's an encore. And then if you want to listen to the archives, yes, you have to subscribe. Okay, getting into the reading. Now, when I see the Wasp card, this comes up for my clients, I always just give them the information with a little bit of a warning, as if to say that sometimes what happens is there can be someone around us who is behaving in a jealous manner. They may be a little bit spiteful. They may be out to retaliate for something. And usually that's, you need to look within your close circle. Who's been around you lately? Is it family, friends, co-workers, associates, things like that. And it's not to sort of go digging and look for trouble, but it's just to say, look, just be aware there may be someone around you who isn't behaving with like your best intentions in mind. It's not a very nice thing to talk about. The other thing is that we just need to make sure our behaviour's been above board, and we can only look to our own behaviour. There's nothing we can do about other people's behaviour except, keep the focus on ourselves. Make sure we're being a good role model, that we're acting with integrity, and we're being respectful of other people. And look, if we are being jealous and things like that, like the Deer is coming in here as well, we just need to have a lot of self-compassion and forgive ourselves. It's a very human emotion, jealousy, and if we feel like someone stung us, we can, naturally get defensive and want to sting back. Yet that's probably not the best course of action. I really feel like the message with these cards is we do, like last week, need to keep our head down, keep the focus on ourselves, and we need to trust in, the laws of the universe. That if somebody has done something not very nice to us, they've stung us in some way, they're acting out of a hurt place themselves. We can have compassion for them. We can definitely still assert our boundaries and not take any garbage behaviour from anybody. Yet we can just say that, it's not personal. That person is behaving a certain way because of whatever's going on for them. It's none of our business. We just need to keep the focus on ourselves, keep our head down, do our work the very best we can, look to our own behaviour, make any adjustments or modifications there, and check our resentments and things like that. Like, were we acting out, in the past, and has it sort of come back around to visit us this way? And just let that person go on. It also is a good idea. I think we had protection card last week too. To, you know, just bubble up, get your white light protection going on, and I always say to send out protection for my online presence and all of my online work as well, because so many of us are doing so much online these days that we really need to tidy up that energy too and keep it nice and clean and cleansed and high vibing and protected. And the thing is, sometimes we can be working in, well, actually, you know what, I think just about any industry has lots of jealousy and pettiness, and you know, people get their feathers ruffled, and then they can get spiteful and want to pay you back and all the rest. And with these eclipse energies too, I don't know about you, but I've been feeling all of the emotions so intensely, and feeling, you know, like that really immature, childish part of me just wants to run the show. And I've been reactive and paranoid and feeling jealous to myself about things. And as you said, it's just, we just need to be very patient, very kind with that part of ourselves, and say, you know what, perhaps we're just, you know, reacting to the energies, the quite intense energies, and we can, you know, go within and then choose a way to respond to what's going on, rather than, you know, coming from that young, you know, child, rebellious sort of, you know, more inner child, and sometimes the wounded ego part of us that, you know, just wants to be reactive and like act out and, you know, feel like things are against us, people are against us, when, you know, often we find out they're not. So sometimes it's, you know, it's about our own behaviour. Not so much even if someone else around us is behaving like that, but definitely if they are, you know, just, it doesn't hurt to just up level your protection. Make sure you're in that bubble of white protective light, protect all your space, your things and everything. But yeah, sometimes it's just us. Sometimes we just coming from that hurt place. So, and the next right action is the Merlin. And it is alchemy, justice, balance. The other thing, yeah, with the wasp is, you know what, if someone is around us and they aren't behaving with our best intentions in mind, they aren't being, you know, the most positive, uplifting influence in our lives, we can trust that everything's going to get ironed out in the end. Pardon me. And that we can surrender that person and their behaviour to spirit. There still may be some action on our part. Maybe it's about going deeper into meditation, writing some inventory, you know, looking at our own stuff. As you said, checking, making sure it's not something that we put out there, you know, a while back and it's come back to visit us, which is just to have another lesson with, not to beat ourselves up about. But we need to trust that spirit is taking care of us, and if someone isn't acting with our, you know, our best interests in mind, we can hand this over to spirit, surrender it, and know that things are going to come back into balance. Whatever's going on with that person, if they're behaving in that way, they're going to come undone themselves. We don't need to add to their pain or add to their suffering, and we don't need to teach them a lesson or anything like that. We just probably need to assert boundaries, and if we've been disrespected, definitely assert some boundaries. Say, hey, you know, have an honest conversation with someone and be like, you know, if you're doing the wrong thing by me, this is the behaviour that's not okay. Make sure that we're using those I statements, and discussing people's behaviour, not their personality traits. But the thing is, we don't really need to worry. And if somebody is going behind our back and doing something that's not untoward, it's going to come to light. Spirit is going to bring it to our attention. And I think it's very funny, because when we aren't behaving well, I know this from my own past experience, when my conduct hasn't been the best, it's always come back to bite me in the bum. And I can trust that it will. And sometimes, as you said, that sting, you know, is directed at us because we haven't been behaving the best ourselves, and it will come back to bite us. So same thing, if it does, if something we did in the past, it comes back to revisit us and it's unpleasant, know that same thing. We're all here, we're all learning, we're all students, none of us is perfect. Be kind to yourself, up-level the self-care and self-compassion, and just, you know, be very, very gentle and diplomatic and kind with yourself and with other people. And sort of, you know, like, I just feel like the encouragement is, don't look for faults in other people. You know, go to town going, oh my God, that person did such a bad thing, blah, 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 you know, and really revel in someone else's mistakes, in someone else's personality and character defects. Like, that's not our job. We are not here to get, you know, down on one another and give each other a hard time. And it's really, it's icky, it's yucky behaviour, and we really don't want anything to do with that. It just, you know, spirals into more dramas and more destructiveness, and it's a downward de-evolution, I call it, a downward spiral. We need to raise our vibration up this week. We need to just, as I said, have that cloak of protection, also for ourselves, the self-care, the self-love, the self-respect, you know, just don't give yourself such a hard time. Just be really gentle to yourself this week and say, you know what, I'm human, I'm doing the best I can. And that person, if there is somebody, you know, giving you a hard time, they're actually doing the best they can too. The forgiveness card is in here, and I feel like that's what it's asking us this week. Forgive ourselves for anything we may have done in the past, or anything we're doing right now, which, you know, we're not, some sort of behaviour we're not very proud of, and we know that we know better. And forgive other people. I feel like a lot more of us are becoming a lot more awake and aware spiritually. We're also becoming more attuned and sensitive to the energies, and that can cause a lot of disruption and chaos in people's lives. You know, they're letting go of the old ways that don't serve any of us anymore, and yet they're in that in-between state before they're embracing the new, you know, and learning higher truths and about spiritual wisdom and all that stuff, and they're just finding their feet. So those of us who have already been down that path and known how rocky it can be and how difficult it can be and emotionally upsetting and traumatic and intense, you know, it's a massive shake-up for some people. We can have some compassion for them and go, hey, you know, it's not okay for them to disrespect us, we've got to be assertive, yet we can have some compassion for where they're at and some patience with them as they move through, because, you know, the ultimate goal is for everyone to find a level of peace and understanding, to, you know, get to a place where they're accepting of their own spiritual truths and growth, and accept where they're at now and where they may like to move to. I just feel like there's such a encouragement towards kindness this week for ourselves and for other people. The Scorpio card too, you know, it says work through your fears, New Moon Scorpio. Scorpio is all about the shadow side, you know, our base instincts, our reactiveness, all the parts of ourselves and the archetypes, you know, we try and suppress. And Scorpio brings these things up, you know, for light to be shed on them so that we can work with them and embrace them. And the only way, you know, to develop wholeness within our whole psyche, within our whole spirit, is to acknowledge, accept, embrace and work with and gain, you know, grow in love, for our shadow side. So there's lots of stuff coming up this week. And the other thing too I like about Melanie is the alchemy. Like, use what comes up with the shadow, use what, you know, when you deep dive into meditation, and keep the focus on yourself. And, you know, you may just kind of want to duck under the covers this week sometimes if things feel too reactive and too intense. But, you know, like, use what comes up, like alchemize it for your good and for the good of everyone else. Like, look for those opportunities where, you know, if you're going through something really challenging, you know, if this is happening for you, like we talked about last week, you know, how could this be of benefit to your spiritual growth and development? And I just feel like too, and this is a message also in Scorpio, like, sometimes we can feel emotions so intensely, and it's about not giving into the fear when those emotions come up, and just being very gentle with ourselves and saying, hey, you know, this is okay. It's okay to feel this way, and it's okay to feel this certain emotion at this particular intensity. I'm not going to feel this way forever. This too shall pass. So I found that, like, I just seem to be in a stage where I need to allow these things to come up, like whether it's jealousy, whether it's, you know, anger, whether it's acute fear, you know, feeling absolutely terrified, feeling paranoia, all these sorts of things. I just feel like these things are coming up and I'm feeling them in a certain way, to just learn once again how to be with these emotional states. To not judge them, not want to suppress them, not want to do any of the behaviours I've done in the past to try and manage my emotions. Just feel these things, let them move through my body and see, you know, just become more acquainted with the experience. And I feel like this is going to add to our emotional intelligence and our growth and our ability to go back and to understand other people, especially when they're acting out and doing things we don't like. Really to sit in that place of empathy and say, hey, I can see it. I can see what's going on for you. I understand that. I get that. It may not be okay, whatever behaviour they're, you know, demonstrating, but, you know, just for someone to feel seen and heard, because sometimes when other people are acting out, you know, with intense emotions, they're really quite frightened underneath. They're really not able to manage and work through their emotional states in a really healthy, positive way. And I think we can all get that. You know, you sort of think, oh, the spiritual stereotype is someone who's, you know, sort of sitting in nirvana, you know, meditating in the lotus position or whatever, and just nothing rocks their boat. And that's just utter bull dust. If you're human, you have an emotional life, you have an emotional body, and plenty of things can rock your boat, trust me. So, as I said, we're going throughout this week. Don't be surprised if things like that happen. Know that you're being protected. Know that, you know, going within yourself is where you're going to find the best answers this week. You know, connect with that inner wisdom. You can listen to so many people and they're all going to tell you one thing, and someone else will tell you exact opposite, and someone else will tell you something again. This is really a time for sorting the wheat from the chaff for ourselves. We need to garner and gain our own wisdom. You know, what's best for us in a certain situation or when certain challenges come up? What works best for us? How can we best support ourselves through things? That's that inner wisdom. You know you best. So, and Spirit are encouraging you, and I'm encouraging you, stay on that journey. Find out what works for you best. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. Trust me, it really doesn't. If you're not hurting anybody else, you're not really self-harming or anything like that, you do what works best for you and trust your own innate wisdom. And that, I really feel like walking, meditating, tapping, anything that's going to help you, you know, process the emotions that come up and the challenges that come up this week, and help you find some sense of balance and equilibrium, is really going to be super beneficial this week. Okay, so many blessings on your week. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate all the views and people subscribing, and I'd love to hear your comments as well. Thank you.